Hello and welcome to another episode of Property-Pxrn Stars, the premium property podcast brought to you by your hosts David Lindley.
And I'm Matt Giggs.
And today our guest, our star, is none other than Jessica Bishop, who is advisor at DDRE Global, a super prime agent from prime central London and specialising in some very exclusive neighbourhoods, which we'll get into in due course. But welcome, how are you?
Thank you very much.
Welcome
Thank you
to
for
the show.
having me.
It's nice to have you here.
Yeah, I'm very well. I'm looking forward to getting started. It's been a little while in the making.
It has, yes.
So let's do it. So let's start off because you're now at DDRE Global, which is really interesting and that has lots of things to talk about there. But before we get into that, I want to start with your career in this sector, I suppose, really at Knight Frank. And I see that you rose pretty quickly from what I can see from doing my research, from sales negotiator all the way to partner. So talk to me about your time there. How long were you there? What attracted you to there in the first place? How was your time?
So I was actually working at another company as a lettings negotiator for a really short period of time. And I was doing that in an interim whilst I was going to be applying for a law conversion course. And then everyone that I knew that was doing law older than me and, you know, godfathers and whatever, hated it. They thought it was so boring. And I was loving walking around the streets of Chelsea, meeting these people. I was like, okay, actually, this is what I want to do. So looked at all the companies that were out there and thought Knight Frank was a great brand that I would like to work with. So I took a job as an admin assistant in the Kensington office. I was a terrible admin because I'm dyspraxic and don't like being told what to do.
That bodes well, yeah.
I was there for about 9 months and then moved into a North London office in St John's Wood, which is where I first met Daniel of DDRE Global. And I was there for 2.5 years and was one of the highest billing core negotiators there and negotiators in that office, and then wanted to move up into the prime and super prime sector. So took a role in the Kensington office, working with 3 very experienced gentlemen who I learned a lot from. I was there for about 1.5 years before the 3 of them left within a month of each other for their own respective reasons. And suddenly I was sort of thrown into the deep end of managing all of these super prime clients, being called into the pitches, getting the buyers. And fortunately, I was kind of capable of dealing it. And swimming. But yeah, that gave me the opportunity to kind of propel my career where normally people would have to spend, 10 years in one role working in the prime market to kind of convince everyone that they're able to deal at this upper level and with all the ultra high net worths. So that was a really fortunate, pivotal moment in my career. But yeah, I kind of
seized the opportunity,
took advantage, and then was there for another sort of 2.5, 3 years doing that before I left earlier this year.
Isn't it interesting that sometimes something like that happens? At the time, you must think, okay, all these guys leave, you're learning loads from them, you're going, oh my God, this is a problem.
Yeah.
But actually, it turns out to be an amazing thing for your career. Even though at the time, it feels like you're being chucked in the deep end of the swimming pool.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes you need the space to kind of grow and make decisions and learn your own way. And if you constantly have people behind you that are more senior than you, you will always be kind of influenced by them. So then having the ability to go and do it myself and manage clients the way that I would want to, having, had kind of a good few years of base understanding, I think, it gave me the best opportunity and success I could have asked for.
Just to kind of back up for a second, because we talk about premium markets, we talk about prime markets, we talk about super prime markets. And I think there are price brackets around them.
Yeah.
For you, what does super prime mean?
10 million plus is the sort of general super prime term. And then I think kind of 20 plus is sort of really what I would look to focus on as super prime.
Hang on, super prime is 10 million plus or super prime is 20 million plus?
Super prime is 10 million plus.
Yeah.
But there's a big delta of difference between when you start looking at 20 million plus, the number of properties are available, the number of people that can actually afford to buy these houses, and it kind of is in another category itself, which doesn't have a name. But
what do we call it then?
Should we make one up today?
super brand?
Yeah,
I don't know. So yeah, that's what I would kind of. I mean, it's ridiculous that we're in a conversation where you'd say if someone comes to me with a £10 million budget, it's like, okay, cool, yeah, I'll help you. And then it's only when you get to 20 that it's like, okay, yeah, this is exciting. This is where I'm going to get my teeth stuck into it, and I'm going to absolutely nail this for you.
And going like, I didn't realize, because it only says, I think, sales negotiator and then something and then partner in Knight Frank online. But you actually started as admin and then worked your way all the way up from there. So A, that's amazing. But B, when does it work that you work your way up the price bands, or at least the market sectors? Like if you started, they would put you in the premium market in that area, and then you go to the prime, and then the super prime, and then the super duper prime. Like
price development career path.
Yeah, does it work like that?
It tends to work like that. If you wanted to immediately work in the prime market, you would probably be put into a periphery office to PCL, so something maybe Southwest London or North London. But then obviously the prime brackets there change, and prime might be as 3+ or 2 million plus, as opposed to 4.5 or 5 million plus. But yeah, it tends to be the more experience you have, and as your career develops, you will go kind of up the price brackets, unless you choose to be a manager and remain a manager of the core market. Yeah,
and it's interesting you say that, because we talked to lots of different agents from around the country, really focusing on the premium markets and above. And it's interesting that you say that, because the prices change from area, but it doesn't really change the way the market works, because vendors who are in the premium market or the prime or the super prime, no matter where they might be, they recognize that in themselves and their property in comparison to the properties that are around them as well.
Exactly.
So it works in the same way, even though you're probably in PCL, in prime central London, you're probably in the hottest area of the country for property prices and what would constitute a prime or a super prime property.
Yeah. Well, if you're comparing yourself to everyone else, say you were in Wandsworth, for example, which isn't actually that far out. I was trying to think somewhere further. But if you had a house at £4 million, you would probably be one of a few standout houses in that area. So you would think of yourselves at the real top of the price bracket. You would be getting kind of that quality of service and attention that you deserve. Yeah. Whereas if you were a £4 million house in Kensington, you would be one of far greater number of houses. So when you look at yourself on the internet or above the sales history and data, you will see you're one of 20, 30. So you will just naturally feel lower down the food chain.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think it's an important point to make. And it's interesting as well that you kind of recognize that so much, because you're right in the thick of it where you are. But I think for everyone who's listening, it's very unlikely that they're going to be in the same market as you. I guess the quantities are lower in terms of the properties, and therefore the agents are specialized in them, right? Yeah. But our audience are made up of agents who want to specialize or do specialize in the premium markets and above. Yeah. And I suppose what they can take from today's conversation, they might think, oh, it's irrelevant because I'm not selling a £25 million property in Regent's Park. It doesn't matter. They might be selling property at a completely different price range, but in their area, that is premium,
exactly,
prime
100%.
property.
I just want to pick up on that, actually, about the transition that you made from coming out of a corporate structure into the new arrangement that you've got. How's that been for you? So earlier this year.
It was really strange at first. And the first morning, we have a morning meeting Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 a.m. and I got into the office on Monday morning at 8 a.m. and was like this, and there was no one there, and I was like, what am I doing? I was like, where the hell do I start?
Feel lost?
Self-employed, you don't have just listings given to you that you can pick up. It was a huge culture shift, and you realize that you really are conditioned. I was there at Knight Frank for 8 years, and you have all the processes in place, which when you are a big corporate, you need to have all those processes in place.
You do, yeah.
And it works for the big corporates and that. Yeah. But it does condition you. So stepping out of it was a huge culture shock, and it definitely took a while to get used to it. And even now, I prefer, I go into the office every single day because I want to, and I prefer working in that environment, and I'm better at working in that environment. You can work from home, from wherever, but for me, that's where, you pick up things by osmosis. You can pick up a viewing, a client, or whatever. And it's important to sort of split your time between, if you're working from a members club or somewhere where your clients are going to be, but the majority of your time kind of work, like actual working, I enjoy doing at the office.
Tell me a little bit about the challenges. We're going to dive into some challenges of moving from that structure where, like you said, business is handed to you
Yeah.
to some degree. There's still a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
To being on your own as such, with the support of DDRE and the team around you. How's that been, like, mentally, in terms of challenging for you, in terms of, right, this is what I need to go and do now? What's been your approach?
So I think, the greatest challenge I found when I first started was just, where am I going to get my instructions from? Where am I going to get my business from? And you basically just have to start out kind of grinding the phones, networking, meeting everyone you can. And I think the first, you might hear I sound like I've got a bit of a cold, but literally it's because for the last 9 months, all I do is go out and network. And when I say, I'm in the office during the day working, so I find that useful for me, in the evenings, I will be out where my clients are, where I can meet people. On the weekends, it is like non-stop, because you never know where you're going to get a piece of business.
Yeah.
And what I have found, which has been incredibly surprising, is how willing people are to help me when they find out that I'm a self-employed individual that's left a big corporate to go by myself. They genuinely really want to help. And, like family, friends beforehand, you might be like, oh yeah, Jess works at Knight Frank, but we'll let whoever does it in the local area. They want to say, Jess, can you help? Can you do this? Is there anyone that you can know? Buying agents, lawyers, surveyors, like all this network of professionals that understand that the Knight Franks and the Savills just have instructions coming to them and feeding their guys. They will call us first, me, and I'm sure a load of other, self-employed people they get on with really well. And that was a really welcoming and unexpected thing to realize.
Quite reassuring, I should imagine.
Yeah, really reassuring. And in the first couple of weeks, it was just people saying, yeah, let me introduce you to this person. Okay, let me call you back. They're coming over in a month's time. And I found that really, really, really reassuring, because I was really nervous before.
I'd take my hat off to anyone that comes out of I'm not going to call it comfort zone, because it's not a comfort zone working in the corporate world.
Yeah, you still work unbelievably
You still
hard.
work unbelievably hard. There's still targets to meet. There's goals that get set, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of expectation.
Yeah.
But there's a whole new world when you step into your own business.
Yeah.
And doing that, I take my hat off to you. So what I really like, what I'm hearing here, and to anyone listening, because I think social media presents a very one-sided animation of the premium, super prime markets. It's what they see on video, the walking around your lovely instructions, making sales in big houses. But the amount that you have to invest, personal time, is no real personal time, if I'm honest. And year 2, year 3, it takes a long time to build up your brand, your reputation, and so on and so forth. How have you found the days that haven't gone quite so well, when you get the knockbacks and perhaps the moments when you don't feel quite up for it? How do you re-motivate or re-engage in what you're doing?
So I had a really difficult experience just before I joined DDRE Global. And when you leave a corporate, you tend to go on gardening leave, which was great. Went traveling around South America.
That's how you spend gardening leave.
Yeah, and it was epic. Met amazing people who I'm still in touch with. I got introduced to a hotel in Morocco. My friend's Moroccan, then bought something in Paris. Like, so many connections everywhere. So again, I was still kind of working whilst I was doing it. And on my penultimate day, I started feeling really unwell. And when I got back to London, I was terribly unwell, and was admitted to hospital. They ended up they thought I was having a stroke. They told my family I was going to die. So they got my brothers to come in to say goodbye to me in hospital. They then did the CT. They put me in an induced coma. They did the CT scan and a lumbar puncture, and found out I had shingles of the brain and spinal fluid. And they said she's going to live, but she's had so much swelling on the brain, she's going to be permanently brain damaged and probably won't be able to walk again. And then I was in a coma for nearly a week, and then I woke up and I came around and I was completely and utterly fine. And they had to do,
We didn't have that as the research, did we? So thanks for sharing that.
How did you recover from that so quickly?
So they said they think I was, just because I'm a very healthy young person, that was kind of the only rhyme or reason as to why. And so shingles of the brain and spinal fluid, it's like well, you know, shingles is a virus that you tend to have, which is part of the chickenpox family. And it's dangerous in adults on the skin, but obviously in your brain and spinal fluid, it's even more severe. And
it's quite rare, is
it's
it?
really rare.
Yeah, not really heard
And they
of it.
say it tends to be triggered by stress. And I was like, I'm the least stressed I've ever been. I've been on a beach like for 6 weeks. And they said it can also be, you know, if you hear stories of men who are in their 60s who've worked for 40 years and they retire and then drop dead on the golf course 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
It's like that. And your adrenaline and cortisol's been here for like 8 years. And as you say, a corporate, it's still not easy. You work 24 hours a day, like 7 days a week, because to be the best, you still have to put that into it. Yeah. And you're always on call for your clients, wherever they are around the world and wherever fits in with their work schedule. And so it was the first time in my life I wasn't on my phone. I didn't have to do anything. And they said, your adrenaline and cortisol have gone like this, and your body's basically like gone into shock.
I bet Daniel was like, where is she? Where's she gone? Hang on, is she having cold feet? I mean, did it literally just
like happen like that? Oh, wow. And then I had to went back to my parents' house, and I spent a month recovering there because I was just so weak. But now that I know that I'm fine and was completely fine by it, nothing better could have happened to me before making that transition, because I was really nervous, you know, beforehand. And now it's prepared me. The most important things in life are your health and your family. And, you know, I wanted to do this one because I believe so much in the way the business is going. And like, I think we are the future of the industry, but also for me, what I want for myself and, you know, my career is to be, you know, like beacon of female inspiration within the industry and have more flexibility when I end up having a family and wanting to manage it. And so health, family are kind of top of the list. And that's ultimately what your clients want. You know, when you have all the money in the world and you're a billionaire, the one thing you can't buy is health. Sure. So that's been a really great leveler for me and a great aligner with my clients as well.
And I'm not being funny, but you don't go, there's not many bigger challenges than that you'd face personally. So the business challenges are not secondary or easy to cope with on a day-to-day, but you can kind of draw on that experience.
Yeah, and so sorry, that's where this led from. Going back to your question, how do I deal with that? That's just,
it's there, isn't it?
It's still there. You know, it was like 6-7 months ago that it happened. This morning, I wasn't feeling great when I got out of bed, and it was like, well, I could just sit in bed and do some emails, but I know that's actually going to do nothing for me. And then, you know, start work a bit later, but go out, get a walk, get a coffee, then go and do that. And when your day, and that's kind of health-wise, but then, you know, you think, I thought I was going to do a very big deal, and then it didn't happen. And the only way you can get over it is by picking up the phone and, you know, doing the next thing and facing it head on. So that's just what you have to do, face it head on and consistently.
I guess the perspective, isn't it, that, you know, it's not good news to have a big deal fall over, but you're not in an induced coma. So,
yeah,
so there's a level of perspective of how bad the news is.
Yeah.
You're an achiever, right? You can hear that.
Yeah.
It comes through you. Your ambition, you just touched on a little bit just a minute ago about what you wanted to create. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that, because I think it's important to inspire people. Certainly, you know, we put you on the chair. It's about you and what's your vision for yourself then going forward in this brand with Daniel and DDRE? Because it sounds pretty exciting from where I'm sitting.
Yeah, it is. It's incredibly exciting. And I think I've known Daniel now for 8, nearly 9 years, and he is, what I love about him is that no matter how successful he is or what he's working in, he always has time to help other individuals, and he's always been there to help me. And I think now working together, we're like an incredibly dynamic duo going into a pitch, meeting any client, and we both offer very different perspectives, but we have the same kind of vision of where we want to be, which is to grow the business to be the best super prime real estate brand on the planet. And I've no doubt that we will get there. You know, in 3 years, we've gone to be the 6th agent across the UK to sell more homes above £5 million. And if you think that's against Knight Frank, Savills, Stratton Parker, who are century-old brands, that's a pretty incredible feat that Daniel has started. And so, yeah, I just want to make sure we grow that.
I met him just before, I think I said this just before we hopped on. I met Dan just before COVID, and he told me about his vision. And I mentioned to him when he was on here back in May, June time, one of our first episodes, how proud I was to watch him from a distance. But I say watch him from a distance, he messaged me every now and then. Like you just said, he's very aware, very personable. He's very knowledgeable as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, I can imagine being alongside him. You represent different outlooks, different perspectives, but you've got a joint vision.
Yeah.
You've obviously stepped into this, and it's been going now for
3
years for the DDRE for yourself, coming in 7 months, 6-7 months.
Oh yeah, 6
really
months.
Working at it. What's been your biggest win so far?
I think it would probably say I was instructed on a wonderful penthouse in Kensington recently, an incredible penthouse, which is an amazing brand, a developer called Loader, who have done One Grosvenor Square, which is an amazing super prime development in Mayfair, and then this Mayfair is Holland Park Gate penthouse. And Knight Frank and Savills have, instructed on this as well, and they wanted to kind of bring me and DDRE in to give a different perspective and dynamic of marketing versus sort of the traditional ways of doing it. And I think, we know what we're doing every day for our clients, and kind of the difference in the service because of the tech that we've built. But then having a huge brand like Loader say, yes, Jess, we want to instruct you to help on our penthouse, and the amazing positive feedback and engagement that I get from this tech service, which I just had no access to anything like that beforehand, is amazing. That's been a real kind of yes, Jess, this is all going in the right way, this is working.
The tech is ADVSR. Is it? Do you say it like that, or advisor?
Advisor, ADVSR, depends what we're doing.
I struggle to line the letters up.
Don't ask Daniel. I think it's probably meant to be one or the other, but you say whatever.
But is that the tech that you're referring to?
So yes, there's that tech, but then also if you separate to DDRE Global, which is the sort of advisor sales brand, we call it a dashboard. And that feeds into advisor, but basically you will have on the dashboard then kind of the details about the property, how your viewings, the viewing feedback, which is all the things you would expect. And then you'll have a graph which has how many impressions your property has had over all social platforms, then over all portals, Rightmove, Zoopla, wherever else it may be. And then you'll also have all of the agents that have been actively sending out their links. So at DDRE, we have individual microsites. So that means when you go onto my page, you'll see my first listing is the Holland Park Gate penthouse at 32.5 million. But then below that, I have probably nearly £500 million worth of property. They aren't all my listings, but I have the ability to market my colleagues' listings, and I can send out to a buyer of mine the link in my name. They'll see that it's me, they'll deal with me, and I'm not at risk of losing that buyer to the agent whose listing it might be because their mobile number's on it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you look at kind of any other business in the world, the listing agent and the number is there, and there's no other way to kind of sort of take that off. So you can see these guys are all encouraged to, send out their links and their microsites and drive more business to my client because they know they'll get a fee from it. And then what Advisor does is help us do this internationally. Yeah. So with the Holland Park Gate penthouse, for example, I wanted to target the US market. So I can segregate. There are about 22,000 brokers on this platform now. So the Advisor team helped me research which brokers in New York were actively marketing listings over $20 million. So then I got a list of 72 brokers. I then went through and contacted all of them individually saying, I've got this amazing penthouse in London. I'd love you to collaborate with me and work on it. And then I sent them all a bespoke link. So one of the top teams in New York, I had a conversation with them, sent them their link, and all he sees is the white labeled content, the videos, the reels, the photos, the floor plans, the blurb about the property, and then it has his company logo and his name there. So he sent it out to his clients. And then what my client can see on the dashboard, that this guy has actually sent it out 12 times. So you know that 12 clients, that's not just him, 12 of his clients have opened this link and are looking at the property.
So, yeah, I've got loads of questions about
So
that.
have I.
So I mean, the fundamental thing, like before I get into some of the details of it, is because this keeps happening to us. And one of the things that this podcast has taught us, I think, is that there's collaboration happens at the top, competition happens at the bottom.
For sure.
And this is collaboration the way it should be done, right?
Yeah.
So one point there, you said your client sees this on the dashboard. Your clients have access to the dashboard, or do you just tell them the information
so the
from
client
it?
has access to the dashboard, and they can't see who the agent has sent the link onto, but they can see
the amount of
that
sends.
how many, and it's not the send, sorry, it's how many times the person who's been sent it has opened it.
Okay, yeah.
So you can't see who their buyer is or their client, but you can see how many times they've opened it. So like another interesting way you can use the tech is, I have one buying agent who has one buyer for this property. He's not, you know, a broker like me who might send it out to loads of people. He has one buyer for it. Over the last week, I can see that his client has opened it 14 times.
Yeah.
So he said he's coming in before Christmas, and that might not happen. It might be January in the new year now, but we know that his buyer is seriously focused on this property because he's looked at it 14 times.
I'm just drawing back to collaboration, which it sounds like this system is. It's
Yeah.
born out of win-win-win.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you're going to win, the broker's going to win over here, and the clients are obviously going to win.
Yeah.
Because they're getting the coverage and the reach
Exactly.
that they need. Because that market is so niche.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still find, I mean, I only had one transaction in the 11 million or something like that. When I first opened my own business, it was a bit of a fluke.
Jessica wouldn't get out of bed for that.
Okay, I'll tell you about it another time because it's a bit boring. I've told some. Anyway, coming back, but the connections that you've built there, I suppose are like, it's not just about one transaction or working on one deal. It's a case of, well, we can see there's a collaboration here, there's an alignment,
Exactly.
and you can start to build those networks across. Is there a lot of switch going on with like New York or agents in that area to the UK? Is that still quite a healthy?
Yeah, it's a really healthy dynamic, but obviously you've hit on it. It's about kind of the personal connection, right? So I could have like email blasted all of those agents, but it wouldn't have been the same.
No,
and now I have a connection with them, you know, like a little bit about each of them. And if I have one client who I feel they would suit better with them, then I could send it to them. I could send it to someone else. So yeah, there is huge collaboration at the upper end of the market, kind of around the world, just because it is so much smaller.
What I've picked up so far, and I don't know whether people watching or listening would have done the same, how much of your time, because that's networking, right?
Yeah.
How much would you say, since you started your own business, has been networking? What percentage of your time is just networking? And that's
like a huge amount.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know if I'd say like 50%.
Yeah.
Like
it's pretty incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
And actually, the lower you go, the less networking happens. From some, perhaps going into the other guests that we've had, it's become more about other strategies and tactics. This is the first time I think we've sat with someone that took genuinely, it's about putting yourself into the place where your clients are. Because
you have, it's all about trust equity. Yeah. And so the likelihood of, and it sometimes happened, and it happened to me at KF, but I think you kind of had the brand behind you, which meant some incredibly wealthy people would just call up cold. Yeah. But most often than not, a billionaire is going to have a circle of trusted professionals around him. And if you try to reach him directly, that's nowhere near as powerful as being introduced by one of his existing trust professionals. 100%. And he passes that trust equity on to you. So a lot of the networking that I do is with these trusted professionals. And I think if you have I believe I have the resume and capability to back up what I say, but then coming with a personal recommendation and referral, then like, not only is she good at her job, but she's actually a nice person. Like that just goes,
It's a given.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask about the networking, but just a quick kind of tactical question. Is there a standardized fee split for the properties where you're sending them to the brokers in New York, for example? How does it work?
So it's generally 0.5%.
Okay.
But in New York, we will offer more because they tend to work, although that is changing in New York. I don't know if you saw the fees split.
I heard about this, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it's changing.
huge. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that just quickly.
So,
what you understand.
Like the New York and the US is known for having huge fees.
Yeah.
You pay 6% fees.
It's three
really,
buyer,
what happens is it's like three to the buyer, 3 to the seller. But now they're saying that the owner has to pay the buyers and the sellers fee directly, as in rather than going to the agent and the agent disseminating however he wants to. So basically, it's just kind of showing like you need to show your value to the owner of the property, who's the person actually paying the fee, rather than the agent being like, willy-nilly, I can give this out and, you pay me 6%, I'm going to keep 5% and give 1 out, but really you haven't actually done too much of the work. And it means that the client base, is just catching on to value and transparency. So they're trying to kind of regulate it a bit further, I think.
Okay, so 0.5%. You fix the fee with your vendor, whatever it might be, and then they get 0.5%, or you can go up from there. Okay. The thing I was going to ask you about networking was so I hate networking, but like anything, I think it's a skill you get better at the more you do. What tips would you give me, our audience, on how to network really effectively? What have you found that gives you the most bang for your buck? And I suppose the buck is time for your networking.
So I much prefer networking on like a smaller one-on-one kind of basis rather than walking into a huge room and not knowing anyone and going in. That's not for me. But unfortunately, sometimes that is the best bang for your buck way of doing it. I was invited to an event last week and I didn't know anyone there, and you kind of have to just psych yourself up for it. And I was with a colleague and she didn't want to speak to anyone. And so I was like, okay, fine. I was like, we're going to go and do 5 people and just walk up. And you have to be so over it, to literally psych yourself up. And, everyone is there for the same purpose, kind of. This is like a third-party professional networking thing where everyone wants something from someone else. And that's kind of a given. So exchanging your business cards, asking what you do, who are your clients, that's a completely legitimate way to go around asking for business, and you just shouldn't be afraid of it. And everyone is really interested in real estate because everyone needs a home to live in.
Yeah.
And so, even if you're renting a £1,500 a month flat in London, you will be so interested to learn like every sector of the market, like what's going on, what are the trends.
Yeah.
And, it means wherever I go, people want to ask me questions. So you just have to kind of, if you're in real estate, remember that at the forefront of your brain that literally everyone wants to know what you do.
When people talk networking, people tend to think it's the extroverts that enjoy that kind of environment.
You love it. This must be right up your street.
I'm actually, you do have to find the energy. No, it's true. I've learned to get myself out of the comfort zone and spend as much time outside of it as I can.
Yeah.
Because you don't learn anything by staying in your room and not going to these events.
Yeah.
I'd rather have a really good conversation with one person than speak to 10 people across an evening. So are you more introverted?
I do love spending a lot of time by myself.
Same.
Yeah.
And I spent 3 weeks in Australia pretty much on my own, and I loved it.
Yeah.
But I did go and make the effort, and you kind of do these things. But I tell you, for a lot of people that are probably listening to this about networking, how you've adopted it against perhaps your natural way or approach is interesting. And it's that kind of going back to what I just said, being outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Do you feel like literally being in your marketplace has taught you that? Because you literally have to put yourself out there, social media, networking events, membership clubs, You are spending a lot of your time doing that. But to other introverts who are probably really interested in the detail, the knowledge, the statistics, the data, and all of the stuff that comes with the super prime market and that experience, and long-term relationships, what would you say to them about doing that? Because it feels to me like that profile would add way more value to a degree to a client.
Yeah, exactly. So you basically have to separate the networking into two camps. And if you're going kind of the bang for your buck, as you said earlier, it's any event that you get invited to. I used to say no a lot because I like going to the gym and hanging out by myself, and I'm on the phone all day, so then don't want to talk to anyone. But now it's like, no, it's my own business. I have to do it. So say yes to every single thing you get invited to, and you say target, okay, I'm going to speak to 3 people, I'm going to speak to 5 people, and just literally you have to treat it like, okay, I'm doing it. And then for the clients, it's much more bespoke and personal, and is a lot, you have to invest a lot more time in doing it. And that I'll do, you know, one-on-one, do lunches. I send like clients or old clients, often I'll send them a book which I've read, which I think they'll like, and then you send them the book, and then I can call them and talk about the book and see like what did they like about it. That's, you know, I love doing that with clients. And then also it's just a really different way to kind of further your relationship. I then did an event last week with my client Loda and Chanel, and I invited 3 clients, and we had like a bespoke viewing experience of the Chanel high jewelry collection. One of them was someone who bought something for me 3 years ago. The other one is a daughter of someone who has a number of instructions that I'm sort of, you know, working on with their family. And since I met the daughter there, you know, I've seen her kind of like 3 times since. I'm seeing her straight after this again. And the other lady, the old client who I've invited, you know, we've spoken numerous times since. And it's just always finding those touch points. I talk a lot about not talking about property.
Yeah.
It's finding those
Absolutely.
touch points.
It's a long game.
Yeah.
So coming out of a bigger organization, and you've built your 8 or 9 years of working with clients and so on and so forth, it's a long game to start again. How have you found that? Like, is it kind of like, right, here we go again, psych myself up? Or is it just simply, I've got to do this?
You just got to do it.
Yeah.
And I think luckily, because I worked in that sector of the market for 2 to 3 years beforehand, I was used to not having a like high velocity of deals. Whereas there are some people who've come into DDRE who are used to doing 25 deals a year. And then even though they know the financial reward will be greater doing fewer, that's been a real like hurdle to get over in their mind. Whereas for me, it's like, okay, I did 6 deals in my last year at Knight Frank, and you know, it's fine with that. So done 3 so far, so that's okay. You know,
it is also the deep end, I suppose, of going self-employed, because that's self-employed agents are like a growing trend across the country.
Yeah.
I think that since 2019, the market share of properties under instruction by self-employed agents has gone up by 500%. I'm pretty sure that was the stat from 20EA. And I think that the thing that makes a lot of them nervous is their own personal cash flow for when the first deals come in. You are a high value, low quantity agent in the extreme. That must have been a particularly extreme position to put yourself in, to say, okay, I'm going to go it on my own without any income whatsoever from a company like Knight Frank until I get those in. It's an even bigger leap than you've taken probably than most in a normal market.
Yeah. So when I was like deciding what I wanted to do in my last year at Knight Frank, I was, you know, you look at anyone that's successful and they go through times of hardship. And I was like, really, you know, I've worked really hard, but I haven't actually gone through hardship. So do I warrant being really successful if I haven't done that? And so I saved up, you know, you get paid a bonus once a year at Knight Frank. I'd saved up, you know, my bonus for 2 years. I bought a house with my brother, which we developed and did up. And then I saved everything else. And then I moved out of my rented flat and I moved in with family friends who kindly taken me in and allowed me to live there rent-free, which is so incredibly kind of them, but also someone who really needs their own like personal space and works really hard. That's a bit of a, you know, it's a sacrifice not having your own home and your own comfort and front door.
That's the word, sacrifice. I'm not sure that many people are willing to do that.
Yeah, so that's you know, that's what I decided to do. I went on like one holiday this year, which was pre-booked and, you know, had got a deal on. I'm not going away over Christmas. I love fashion and clothes, and I love buying like secondhand clothes and finding deals on eBay and Vestia. Like I genuinely love doing that, but you know, I haven't, you know, bought loads of clothes like recently, and people see me networking, going out to nice places for lunch, but that's networking. It's not like going out for dinner with my mates every night and spending loads on that. So you do have to really, know that you're going to take a sacrifice and believe that it will pay off.
And when you left Knight Frank, there could have been a number of different things you did or places you went to or people looking to headhunt you. Why DDRE? What was the draw there?
One, I believe in Daniel. You know, I think you need to have a visionary and someone that inspires you and helps you grow every day. And he is that person for me. I think he is a complete visionary in the business. Like the way his mind works and the way he sees things is insane. And how he was building the platform to enable the collaboration with like super prime brokers around the world, and also enable you as a self-employed advisor within London to have a number of listings that you can, you know, actively market. There was just kind of nothing else. There's nothing else like that available in the UK or in the world, I believe.
Were you going to make the leap anyway, or was it because the opportunity with DDRE was there? Was that like the choice, or was that the attraction?
There was kind of like a push and pull. In my head, I was thinking, okay, I've been in this seat for a couple of years. I love my job, but you know, I wanted to grow, and I didn't feel I could grow really much more where I was. And then seeing what Daniel did, I felt that was, you know, a huge pull for me to go there.
Just we touched on the vision that you had about inspiring ladies and women to be in this industry, to do the same thing, or just as an entrepreneur. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? If you were to kind of, let's say we're still doing this, which would make this very, very successful.
Very successful.
Quantity terms.
Let's say you sat here in 5 years. Where do you see yourself? What would you be doing at that point?
I'd be doing what I love every single day, which is helping clients solve real estate problems, but I'd be the most successful female agent in the world doing it.
Nice. Clear vision.
Yeah.
And I only say female because Daniel will get annoyed if I say agent.
Wow.
Changing tack slightly. So I saw as well, you've got quite a strong social media following. I think, is it 27,000 odd or so? I think I read that number somewhere. Is that right?
On
or is
like
that out
all
of date?
platforms, yeah.
Yeah. How have you grown that? Because it's quite a following.
Yeah, that's also a huge amount of work that you have to put into and invest. I made quite a huge step up during COVID when you just had more time, and I was posting twice a day, every day.
What kind of things are you posting? Is it all real estate stuff, or is it lifestyle stuff? I'm doing this today.
No, it's like lifestyle stuff. What I think during COVID, it was kind of lifestyle stuff, family stuff, because I was with my family during lockdown. The struggles I was going through during lockdown as an agent, and properties that we were marketing. And then it kind of dropped off a little bit because focus on work and getting back and blah, blah, blah. And then stepped it up again in the last year. And the focus has been on the property that I'm marketing, but also me as an individual, what I enjoyed, doing my personal brand. People loved that I was an agent who would dress differently. You know, I'd always dress how I wanted to. And people loved that, going to, what's your outfit of the day today? Which I don't know.
Matt and I don't get that very often.
Speak for yourself, David.
So yeah, that's something that I would do a lot, and talking about my, you know, the secondhand finding of clothes and stuff that I love to do.
To get people to get to know you a little bit more.
Yeah.
So tell me, because it's a pretty relentless thing, social media, to keep it up, to keep it going and consistently be there posting. What's your kind of method? Do you structure, schedule, that kind of stuff? How do you play that?
So I've actually now employed someone to help me do it. She's a family friend of mine who is just like the most aesthetically amazing person ever, and she gets me. And so she's come in to help me. So she will manage my posts every day, and she'll come to London once a month, and we'll film content in a property. I do a weekly insight once a week talking about whatever sector of real estate I want to. She'll post that, and she'll make cool little reels of me and the properties and stuff. And then if there's something that is meaningful to me, or I specifically want to post, then I'll do that too. But that just really helps with the consistency of
I've done the
posting
same in the last 6 months, and it's helped me to concentrate on what I'm good at, and allow someone who's better at doing that job and organising.
Well, that's the thing, it's being a social media manager is a
strategy.
It's a strategy,
schedule.
it's a role, it's a reason why, it's a job. I'm not a social media manager, so I'm not going to do it as well as someone else. And so it's just important that you find the person that you work with and understands you, so it can be kind of seamless.
And when you do find someone, so we have someone who does our By Design socials, and she's brilliant because you said the word aesthetic, she really gets the aesthetic and would create designs that I've obviously nothing to do with. And she produces them like, that's brilliant. That's exactly what's in my head. And somehow you've, without even asking me, got it out and produced it, and it looks brilliant. And you can't fake that.
Yeah, exactly.
And amongst all of that, you're a poet.
Yeah. I like
That's a
writing
curveball.
poetry.
How do you find the time to do that?
It goes in
a good
spurts.
release? Is that kind of like a nice way to...
Yeah. It goes in spurts. Sometimes love writing, and I'll just sit in bed and I'll write something, and then sometimes I'll go a few months and I won't write anything at all. But yeah, I love doing that. I love reading poetry. I studied classics in ancient history, and studying like poetry was kind of my favorite, element of that. So I just think it's incredibly therapeutic, and I love, there's always meaning behind everything that's written, and you can write something really obscure and then try and reading into the meaning into it. I find that fascinating.
Wow.
Well, I interviewed a lady in lockdown called Donna Ashworth, who's she's just gone mad, gone wild with her poetry. And I think, like you say, if it comes from the heart, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Poetry.
And I know you've probably said that because you saw have an Instagram for it. But it's quite, because I know you can sort of dig into it, and it is quite personal and revealing. Yeah. I'm like, I'm not really going to post this poem that I've done in case people know what's going on.
Yeah. Don't worry, I'm not going to bring anything up. And if I did, I don't think I'm qualified to know the meaning behind it anyway. So you're safe. Cool. Is there anything that we haven't asked you here that you think, that's something that other people who are aspiring to do more business in the premium or prime or super prime sectors of the market ought to know? Has there been something along the way you thought, I wish I'd known that at the start?
So we were discussing yesterday in the office about the funnel. I don't know if you've heard this theory before about how and it's kind of along the vein of what we've been discussing, but how you get close to your clients. If your client's here at the bottom of the funnel, and if you live here, what are your kind of interaction points, to get to them? And you can say they operate in the bottom 10th percentile of this funnel. If your gym is here, if your football club is here, if your high street is here, how can you change that or manipulate it, not in the negative sense of the word, but that you will have more like authentic, genuine encounters with your clients and the people that you should be meeting? And so it's as simple as, if you happen to live, outside of London, and you get it, there are people who have families, and London is extortionate and most people can't afford to live here. So you commute in. But if you changed your gym from being by your house to in London, and then you went to your gym, 3 minutes from your office every day, are you likely to bump into clients, other agents, other professionals? Probably. And then if you do that, you're probably going to get your coffee from around the corner of the gym. So then you'll bump into more people there. And it's just your presence in that area is like, you need to be a constant reminder in people's face. And I think, fortunately, where I've lived in London, and I love going to the gym, so I always went to like quite a nice gym in the middle of Kensington because it was easy to go there first and then go to work. So I've kind of accidentally had quite a good grounding of that. But I realized that that was by accident, not by genuine determination. And if I hadn't been told that, would I have done it? So if you are looking to get into the super prime sector, you just want to base yourself where these ultra high net worths are, with, you know, the successful people and the wealth. And that doesn't mean you have to be buying the £10 million house, but you can go to the coffee shop and the gym and the bookshop around the corner from there.
And when you that's really interesting. When you say client, just to pin the tail on the donkey here, we don't mean Mr. and Mrs. XYZ. You mean you have an avatar of who your client would be, they are likely to be this person? Or do you actually mean, no, I can name the person that I'm talking about?
No, just like an avatar of...
That's stalking.
Yeah.
No, just like an avatar, you know, of that.
Yeah, which is important to anything marketing and sales related. Selling Sunset. I may as well ask you, because I mean, they tend to show... I watched the last series, because someone said you should watch the last. So I watched about 6 episodes one Saturday morning, crashed through it. I didn't see one deal, just out of interest. But anyway, what's your opinion on that show?
I mean, I love watching it because I think it's like fascinating, and I love looking at the clothes and the outfits that they wear. But it is definitely...
I just can't imagine DDRE's meeting last week talking about funnels was like the meetings that they have in their front office.
No. I don't think so. I think it's fascinating to watch, and I think it's fascinating to watch. How realistic it is, I don't know, but what I think it has done, and you know, with $1 Million Listing, which was kind of the first one that came out with Douglas Elliman in New York on the East Coast and West Coast, is it's changed the perception of agents. And if you look at agents, or brokers as they're called in the US, like, they are rock stars.
They are rock stars.
Everyone wants to be a broker or an agent, and you go into their car park and your cars are like a Rolls Royce, a Bugatti, whatever, kind of a Range Rover is supposedly like entry level.
Yeah.
And then you come here and everyone's like, oh God, estate agents. No, I had the worst experience. They're lazy, you know, they're spivs, whatever. And I think like the perception of what you can be as an agent has changed. And it's not that we weren't necessarily always not doing that. Like, we were, and like our work ethic, and at the upper end, our work ethic, the service we give is the same, but the perception to everyone else of like what an agent is and how integral they are to their clients and what you can be has really shifted. And I think it's really important also as a career path for people. It's not a career path that in school is advertised, but like, it's an amazing business. I love it. You know, one of my best mates, he always says, he's like, I was around a dinner table and people said, you know, does anyone actually love their job? And he's like, yeah, Jess Bishop loves her job. I love it. You speak to anyone at DDRE, they'll tell you they love it. Yeah. And so hopefully it's made more people go, yeah, I want to be a footballer. I want to be an agent. I want to be a real estate broker. So I think that is a huge...
raise the profile.
Yeah, huge shift.
Just a question on that. Do you love your job? Do you think you'd be the same if you were dealing in a different area of the market? Or do you love your job because of the properties that you're dealing with? And
no, it's because of the people that I meet, not the properties. Like, the properties, unfortunately, tend to be kind of much of a muchness, you know, because if they're done by someone being sold, you need to be kind of as saleable as possible, which means be as uncontrovertible as possible normally. So, you know, you'll like have an ice cream carpet and an ice cream wall, and it will be, the quality will be beautiful, but you don't often like necessarily walk in and go, oh my God, this is the most incredible, amazing, different house I've ever seen. And that's not diminishing them, but it's, you know.
But it is the people industry.
But it's the people.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we've come to the end of our podcast, but we do have a bit of a closing tradition, which is as ridiculous as you'd expect. And whether you know it or not, you have a porn star name, which is comprised of your middle name and your pet's first name. Now, Daniel cheated. With a name like Daniel Daggers, he came in one of the first episodes and completely cheated because his name is so outrageous in the first place that he somewhat got away with that.
Got away with that, though, didn't he, really?
Currently topping the leaderboard still is Matt with Kevin Tiny.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty good, isn't it? So what's yours?
Sophie Minu.
Ooh, it's got a little twist to it.
Yeah. Minu.
Minu. It's French for, I think it's not.
Is that your middle name or is that a pet's name?
No, Sophie is my middle name.
Yeah.
And then Minu was our cat's name.
That's an unusual
our
cat's
first
name. My
pet.
cat's called Roger. It's not quite as elegant in French.
You could have used Roger with yours.
I
Really.
could have done. It would probably been better, wouldn't
You
it?
need to be more creative.
What's Minu?
I now can't remember. I felt like it's
Oh, no.
Bisou is kiss, so it's not kiss, but it was something. It's like cute or something. I can't remember. I need to look that up. Unfortunately, she died a long time ago.
We need a French speaker to clarify. Well, if it is kiss, that's pretty good then. There's something there to work with, maybe.
It's not kiss, but yeah.
No. Okay. Well, we tried.
Something along those
Delving.
lines.
Somebody will
French and
correct
cool.
us.
You've got a rubbish porn star name. You've been a really interesting guest.
You've been a fascinating guest, Jess.
Thank you so
very
much for having me. It's been
Thank you.
amazing.
No, thank you for sharing so much. Like from a corporate, from an independent, from a self-employed, even the journey that you've been on with having such a horrendous illness and what you went through there, that's been really, really fascinating to learn about. So
Get
thank you.
networking, guys. That's all I would
Get
say.
That's the big
Get
takeaway that I've
networking.
taken from
Yeah,
this.
hugely.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you. And thank you so much for listening or watching to this episode of Property Porn Stars. We hope you enjoyed it. If you have, please don't forget to like, follow, share, subscribe, comment. We want to hear from you and we really appreciate you taking the time to listen.
Thanks a lot.
See you in the next one.